Welcome, everybody, to the Entrepreneurial CPA Show. Still here during the COVID-19 outbreak, helping you take that deep dive in knowledge you need to break free of the box and punch above your weight as always. And Dr. Sean is still on quarantine lockdown in New Jersey, so I've got a special guest host back again, round two, Rafael Casas, Senior Manager with Sage Accounting Solutions, talking more all about bots today. Rafael, how's it going out in sunny California?
It's going well. Thank you very much for having me again. How are you doing over there?
I'm surviving on the East Coast, not as good as you, but I'm always impressed whenever we talk on how deep your bot knowledge is. You know, you're in the accounting vertical. We always have like a minor or a secondary major in bots. How did you get started with all this bot knowledge up inside your head?
Well, so I worked in the accounting industry in Sage and technology from about 2005 to 2011, and then I moved into working with tier 1, tier 2 RPA and billing engines for media and broadcasting companies around the world. So that's DirecTV, all of Latin America, MultiChoice Africa, Ion Media, television in the States. And so RPA was just, it wasn't even a thing. It was just something that we had to do for these large businesses that are running 5 million plus transactions a day. So you don't have the luxury of having anything be manual. You've got to make sure that everything is done where it can be by a bot, to make sure not only from a standpoint of effectiveness and efficiency from that millions of transactions happening a day, but also accuracy standpoint. You know, that's something that a bot really helps from the data accuracy standpoint.
Okay, so last episode we talked about, understanding bots, macros on steroids, and why even during this time, it's a good time to get into bots. As we go deeper into this bot landscape and firms are evaluating bots, you've got a tremendous wealth of knowledge. What do they need to know as they go down this path?
Well, first, a big thing to do is what we talked about in our previous discussion is make sure you're reevaluating all your business processes. But along with that, doing a lot of research and attaining more knowledge onto the industry. One big thing is to understand the community, the RPA community, because it is much different, but it also isn't that much different. So if you look at some of the core RPA vendors, you've got Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, UiPath, and those are the three big ones. And those are really more aligned and geared towards the enterprise. So you're not going to find anyone, it's going to be very difficult to find someone that is going to be more geared towards small business, smaller firms, because it can be extremely expensive. But there is a really great RPA vendor that just came out. Hasn't been around too long, but they're already ranked by Forbes in the top 5 vendors in the world, and they're called Electronic. And so Electronic actually works directly with PwC as a strategic consultant for them. So they have a good grasp on the accounting world, but they're geared towards small business, small, mid-sized firms, and they're much more affordable, and as well as understanding the RPA consultants, because that is a huge aspect of this to making sure these implementations are going to be successful. So you've got some big consultants like Cognizant, EY, Accenture, and PwC are big consultants in the industry. And then, some tech partners, some of them you may have heard of before: IBM, Google, Microsoft, Abby. Those are some of the big partners that are really helping for end users to kind of leverage this, because, a lot of businesses and firms are using Google, using Microsoft. So it's a way to help bridge those types of bots to work end to end for their businesses.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's say I'm a 100-person CPA firm here. I want to get into bots. Do I need an RPA consultant? Am I big enough to warrant that? Is that going to be too expensive? Where does that fit into this?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I've seen some of these consultants, and there are some quote unquote consultants that don't know specific industries as well as you would hope them to know. And so that is something that, just like with any other software implementation or project that you've worked on before, you want to work with subject matter experts, not someone who is working in 20 different types of professions or industries. So they're not really going to be a master or understand, for instance, taxes and understand the workflows that are needed for auditing and for the advisory side. So, it's important to work with someone that understands your industry very well, because they're going to be able to give you information as far as what has worked for this industry in the past and what has not worked, and what are other firms doing. So it's going to help you get that type of information that you may not have because you're new to the implementation. But for someone like 100 firm bot, I think what I generally do and recommend is find two folks in your firm to really have their focus on the business analysis of your firm, and then start from there, because they're very well capable of being able to do this. I think from that particular standpoint, those two folks can be able to not only discover the types of processes that they're going to be wanting, that are going to be most valuable and have the biggest ROI to have a bot implemented, but as well as they'll have the technical ability to test these bots and to make sure that they're not only effective, but they're also scalable from all the other third-party applications that you may have.
So that makes sense. We can, if you're not ready for the RPA consultant, get your internal team of champions, just like any IT project. So then I think one of the things I think about CPA firms is we all think we're different, but we all do the same thing. We're all doing tax returns, financial statement work, bookkeeping, some advisory services. What are some key areas that you see firms can really leverage, especially in these crazy times? They got to be like laser sharp. Where should they get started with some easy wins on bots for CPA firms?
There's a few that are really beneficial. You could do like some procure-to-payment automation gaps with bots, having them vet new vendors, even on the customer side, vet new customers, because it's important to make sure your data integrity is great. Because this old saying, junk in, junk out, as well as when you're going to be reporting, doing forecasting, all that information needs to be as clean as it can be. You can do bots for quote to cash automation, to doing price checks against verifying, price checks that are already on sales orders, and then reporting. You can create bots to gather and consolidate transactions and reconcile them in your ERP, where your ERP may not have the ability to do that out of the box. Something as well as the tax management bot, a great use case I've seen for some smaller consulting firms, CPA firms, where you can have a tax bot, that it maps and scans the tax form spreadsheets in the database and extracting the online financial data, such as like balance sheets. And from there, it can, really map to each field and plug that information into an online tax form. Like you said, I think in our previous discussion that you have something similar to that. And what's really important, that not only from doing that type of copy and paste of that information, but also it'll flag if any error of the primary data sources match from the tax return. So, data integrity and user error is a big area where this can really be effective in your firms.
So, one of the challenges that makes me think about, one of the challenges inside so many CPA firms today is we've got so many different systems. We might have 6 different programs with 6 different client lists. Here's a client that's in the tax program, and the time and billing, and the engagement, and the workflow. So can a bot help match up and keep all 6 of those in sync together? That's a huge, huge pain point of firms, and it's not intelligent work, but it's just very time intensive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's been some pretty big firms that have worked through that, of having a bot be able to not only through APIs, but other SDKs, software development kits, being able to go through and work through those integrations from your initial, core accounting package. So that is something that you can do, but this is also part of the initial scoping phase in business analysis, like we talked about in our previous discussion, where things you need to be very cognizant of is scaling, because this is an ROI that is long term. So you want to look at your technology stacks. How frequently are those stacks updating? How frequently are those third parties updating? Because that can also be an issue, as these bots may stop working if there's some significant changes on some of your tech stacks, on some of your third parties or your tax software. So it's important to make sure that you're aligned with updates that you may be doing, aligned to the bots, because there may be adjustments there. But that is something that has absolutely been done already, that the firms have implemented for bots to make sure that those bots cross through several different software packages to eliminate that manual process.
All right. I mean, that makes total sense, and that can alleviate some pain. And something else you just hit on that I want to really pick your brain, because you've been doing this a long time. You got tremendous experience. We're accountants. We obviously love numbers. We love spreadsheets. ROI evaluation. How should firms evaluate the ROI on a bot? Because we're used to doing ROI calcs on all kinds of things, but never something like this. So what insight can you share on how we can get started doing that inside our firms today?
Well, one thing you can look at is from even a revenue standpoint, you can look at those folks that are generally do these types of tasks and what they've moved into. If they moved more into advisory, they moved into more value added to their clients. You can look at the FTE of the value of what they were doing and what they're doing now, and how much more they're able to bring to the table for that firm. Funny enough, there are some bots that are actually being created to do this already. That when we talked on our last discussion about the intelligent bots, there's bots that are going to be doing discovery that will help with this business analysis from the get-go, but they're also going to be able to do some ROI analysis on what you're doing. So bots are really going to be able to take away and some of that also some of that analysis that you would think you would need to be doing. But I think that would be the first step to do that.
Is there any kind of standard process or methodology or reference we can share on how do you do an ROI on a bot?
We do have, there are some spreadsheets analysis that we can share, and I can share that with you later. We definitely have, there are some out there. But it also really, again, depends on what you've deployed out there and what types of bots are deployed. So some are going to have a larger ROI than others. But there is something that I can pull up and give to you guys to be able to share that out to the community to see what they should be looking at.
That'll be great. Rafael,
ROI calculators.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate this time and sharing your in-depth knowledge in the bot world. Filling in for Dr. Sean here because he's locked down with COVID. Any final words for the audience as we wrap up today?
I think one thing that the biggest area that I want to touch on is that to make sure that culture itself is so important in any type of implementation, and especially in the bot culture, to make sure that you are supporting everyone in the firm and that this movement, this type of implementation is going to be something to support the growth of the firm and ultimately support each individual as we can get them to be more value add for their clients.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the time. My co-host for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And if you're sitting there being like, I want to get started with bots, but I'm not sure what to do, reach out to either of us. We're happy to spend some time with you, helping you give that push in that right direction to understand the crazy, interesting, and amazing world of bots or RPAs. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, click to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Stay up to date with the latest episode. And as always, we challenge you today to take action to change the world and invest in yourself.